Hello fellow runners, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over how to pick and prepare for your next race. We're going to talk about how to pick a race, why to pick a race, how to prepare for it, and it's going to be a really special episode because I'm going to give away free tailor-made running schedules for everybody that answers a question that I'm going to ask later on in this video. So pay close attention, let's not make this intro any longer and let's dive into it. First thing we're going to do before we're going to pick our next goal is take one step back and look at the difference between your goal and your motivation. Because a lot of people make the mistake that once they pick a goal, they find the motivation to run again. And although in some way that can be true, the goal is never the same as the motivation and the why you are running. See it as follows. Let's say you want to start a bakery because you have a passion for baking bread. The goal might be that you want to have a revenue of 1 million by the end of the year, but you're going to do that by baking bread, and because you love baking bread, it gets you up every morning to start doing it. If your goal in running is running a marathon and you have to get up and pick yourself up every single day in order to achieve that goal, at some point in time it will be boring. So you have to find a why. Why do you want to do this every single day? If you put the goal aside, do you still want to do it every single day? For example, I do it because I want to be functional fit. I have a son, he's 6 years old, his name is Jack, and I want to be active with him, I want to do fun stuff with him for as long as possible. And I need my body in order to do that. So I want to keep my body healthy and fit. And that I'm doing by running, by doing other sports. And I set myself a goal because I want to be accountable and measure what I'm actually doing and if I'm getting fitter. So it keeps me accountable, it keeps me on track. For me, the goal is the dot on the horizon, but it's not why I'm doing it. So now we know that we want to set ourselves a goal. What I always do is just aim as high as possible because I enjoy and I like what I'm doing, so I'm gonna do it for a long time anyways. For running, that means that setting a goal would probably be a marathon or maybe even an ultra marathon. From my past experience, I know that it takes me approximately between 3 and 6 months to get a very decent 5-kilometer increase. So I started off in January around 6 to 8 kilometers. So in the first year, I'm gonna simply aim to run a half marathon. So what I do is I take the race calendar, plan 1 year ahead and plan that first half marathon. And I'm also start looking into what kind of marathons I want to run and where I want to do it. I always want to try to make it special. So maybe run it with friends, maybe run it with colleagues, but I try to keep people around me that also gonna keep me accountable. And that's why I'm also documenting for you guys. So I'm also keeping myself accountable for running again. Although nobody cares, I do care about your running, of course, you legends. And then the fun part begins. We're gonna start training. But before we start running like headless chickens, let's first develop ourselves a plan that gets us from point A to point B and make it as smart as possible. I personally want to have a schedule, but I also want to keep some flexibility in there to maybe mix it up with another sport or maybe shift the one training from one day to another. I always want to have a certain flexibility because if I'm becoming a slave of my own running schedule, for me the fun part in running and the why goes away. So I want to mix it up, I want to make it flexible, but that's for everybody personally. So if you want to stick to a very tight schedule, that's a good way to do it. But if you want to be a bit flexible, that's also okay. There's only one really important rule that you need to always follow, and that's being consistent. And why you have to be consistent, I'm going to tell you at my board. So the reason that a lot of people say that you have to be consistent and that you have to train a minimum of 2 times or preferably 3 times or maybe more per week is because of the following. Let's say you have a baseline level of condition where you can run an easy 5 kilometers, but you want to train for your next race and you want to get up to 10. What happens is you're going to train, and with training you're going to tear down muscle fibers and you're going to get tired. After your training, your body will start repairing itself, and your body is really smart, so it's going to make it a little bit better than it was before to prepare you for the next one. So you go up a little bit better. That takes approximately between 24 and 48 hours. Everybody is different, but this is a common average that you hear a lot. If you don't do anything, the body thinks it doesn't need it, so it goes back to basic again. But what you want to do is somewhere over here, stimulate the body again and do another training. So once you did that training, it will go up again, makes it better, and that cycle repeats and repeats and repeats. But you have to be very mindful of when you give these training impulses. And you have to time them well, because if you train too much, let's say after 12 hours, you go down again too quickly. So you give your training impulse, then you try to recover and recover, but you don't wait long enough. So you're going to give another training impulse. And this is what they call detraining or overtraining. If you do nothing, of course, you stay at a baseline. So that's why it's important to be consistent and be very aware how tired your body is and how often you train. Take a lot of rest, and you can see you only grow when you rest. And of course, like promised, later on in this video, I'm going to give you the chance to get your own personalized training schedule from me. But before we do, first dive into what to do if you fall off track during your training program. So there can be countless reasons why people fall off track. But the most important part is, how do we get back on track? So let's cover some of the reasons why people fall off track and what you can do to get back on track again. One of the reasons that you get off track is because you put the goal too early in time, and it doesn't allow you to have some setbacks and adapt and adjust your training schedule. So what happens then is that from where you first wanted to run, you now must run because you need to hit that goal in time. For me, that's always a big demotivator because I really want to enjoy my runs instead of that I must run. So setting your goal at a realistic time frame really allows you to catch some breath, and also allows you to adapt and adjust your training schedule and have some slack every once in a while. Another reason that you get off track is simply because you lose the interest in running. And this is personally one of my main reasons why I lose motivation or get off track. That's because I like variety in my sports. But I can also tell you that there is no harm in mixing up sports. You have a whole movement nowadays that's called hybrid athletes, and I love, for example, to mix up strength training and kickboxing with my running. The first time I ran a marathon, I did that by training twice a week in running and twice a week in kickboxing. And although it's a completely different sport, as long as I made sure that my volume and my duration of kickboxing was similar as my training schedule as I would do when I was running, then there was no problem, and I did see improvement on my runnings as well. So make sure you allow yourself to have some space for variability and experimenting with your training schedules. Some other things you can try to get back on track is to build some sort of routine so it becomes a habit. Maybe you can put your clothes already there so it's becoming easier to get out of the door. Maybe you can find a running buddy to run with and make things more social, or find new podcasts or music to listen to. Also, sometimes finding new different routes to run can help, or start trail running into the forest. But mix things up, make it fun and keep it fun. That's the most important thing when it comes to running, and stay motivated. So I made you guys a promise. I want to send you a free personalized 16-week running schedule. In order for me to do that, I need to know 3 things from you, which you can put down in the comments below. Number 1, what is your current goal and what are you training for? Number 2, what is your current 80% effort pace at the 5 kilometer? And number 3 is, how many times per week do you want to train? You leave a like, and it's up to you if you also want to subscribe to the channel. I can send you a personalized free running schedule. I put the link in the description down below, and leave me your email address there so I can send it to you. So by now you get your running schedule, you know to pick a goal. If you want me to deep dive on any of these topics we now handled, then leave that in the comments down below, or ask me a question and I'll get back to you. For now, don't forget to wave and smile to your fellow runners on the way, and see you in the next video.